Okay, so today I'm going to be doing a demonstration of a life drawing and how to break down the body into a full life drawing like you would do for a fashion design for like a croquis, for instance. So we're going to be using this model that I printed off the internet and working from this. So first thing you want to do is break down about how many heads tall they are. And a normal person is probably going to be around 6 or 7 heads tall. If you're doing a fashion model croquis, they usually kind of elongate the figure a little bit more. So we might start off with like a smaller shaped head, and then that will cause the figure to end up being 9 or 10 heads tall even. Alright, so let's go ahead and figure this out. If her head is about this big, that'll be number 1. Let's figure out how many heads tall she is and where her body parts are placed among those head measurements. So it's 2, 3 right here, 4, her hips, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, and we got 10 there at about the heels. Okay, so elongated figure, looks like the torso is extra small, those legs end up being super long then. So again, this isn't like realistic proportions, it's just kind of what you would do for a fashion design. Alright, so I'm going to start off way at the top of the page and make sure I have space. And I'm going to draw a head shape right there. She's tilting up and back, so that's going to make the head seem a little bit shorter. You got some foreshortening happening there. And if that is the right head shape that I want, I'll do the same thing I did on the printout. So let me go ahead and number this so I know where everything is again. And then, so that's 1, 2, and 10 right there. Alright, so I'm measuring everything out first, eyeballing it, but measuring it to make sure it all fit on there, because I don't want to end up drawing a great drawing, then I only can draw up to the knees by the time I get to the bottom of the page. So measuring it out first, we're going to number that as well. So it's kind of like a gridding technique. And now we're going to go ahead and start the body. So she's facing off to the left, which means I want the neck more in the back here to the right, so we have room for the chin. It is on a slight angle, so I might tilt it a little bit more. And start off light, start off kind of sketchy and loose, especially if you're going to be putting your own design clothes on this as well. Then you're going to want to have it light so that you can draw right on top of it still. Alright, I do see the shoulders are on a very, very slight angle. Not much at all, but the right one is just a tiny, tiny bit higher. And then I'm going to try to figure out kind of the shape of the torso. So the waist looks like it's about 3.5, cuts into this area right here, right after the third headline. And the front of her body is kind of bending. The right part of her torso is definitely leaning to the right, so I want to include that in my rough sketch here. So we dip down into about 3.5 heads down. Tilts this way. Okay. And now the hips are definitely on a slant, tilting downward like that. Left hip comes in on a very slight angle, stops right about there, and it's going to go the other direction for the leg. And then the right hip comes out a lot further, past the 4 line and into the 5. Alright, so we're going to step right about there, and that's for the hips. Alright, arms and legs. So I usually do that with kind of a stick figure at first, just to figure out maybe where the skeletal structure is, where the bones might be. And I'm looking at this part of the arm, comes up here. The elbow looks like it's about even with where the nose is going to go. And then the forearm pretty much comes in horizontally behind her head. And we lucked out, we don't need to draw that hand. Alright, so right about there. And again, I'm trying to keep that nice and light, that way I can erase or just draw right on top if I'm making a mistake, which I'm sure that I am here at some point. Alright, so we got a shoulder here, and it angles in this way. It looks like the elbow is even with the 3 line, right about here, and then comes back in, and then we'll have the hand. I'm just going to represent the hand with a basic shape for now. Okay, now while I'm doing this, not only am I drawing the arm, but I'm also looking very carefully over here at the negative space. So this sort of like kind of a rectangle, triangle-ish shape right in here, and this triangle shape right in here as well. If I can get that just right, then the arm is going to seem proportioned. If for some reason I end up making this too big, that will also elongate the arm, stretch it out, and give her a big old noodle arm. So I want to keep that under control, keep that negative space nice and tight right there. All right. Now, so it looks like she's resting her weight on this leg here more. That seems to go pretty much straight up and down vertical. The other leg is bent. So let's start with the left one here first. So we are going on a slight angle. And the knee is even with about the 7 line. So her thigh comes all the way out here. And if I were to draw a line going up from the knee, it meets right inside the part of her arm that bends there. So we got a knee there, and then it kind of comes in slightly, not quite vertical, but the calf line does come in slightly. And then we said the heel was even with the 10 line, so the ankle should be a little higher than that. Heel's right here. And then we're going to have that foot. Okay, so that's the left leg. The right leg, it's pretty much coming straight down vertical. That knee might be a little bit lower than the other one. Right about there, so just below the 7. And then we've got the calf. And again, I'm looking at the negative space, looking at the space between these 2 legs. I don't want that to be too great right now. It's going to mess me up later. Now this foot on the right is a little bit lower. It's closer to us. So keep that in mind. So the ankle actually starts at about 10, it seems. Okay, and that's decent for the skeletal structure, I feel like. I'll take another look at it, compare it to my model, whether it's a photo or printout, whatever. I'm pretty satisfied. So I'll go ahead and start working on the actual body now. And I'll switch to a darker pencil, moving on to a 4B. Alright, now I'm going to start off with the face, or the head I should say. I don't want to do the face right now. I'll decide later if I want to give her glasses or different style of haircut or whatever. I do want this to kind of just work as like a template pretty much for right now. So neck comes back this way. A slight curve here. This is the back of the head. We've got an ear. And we would have a jawline right about here. Alright, I'll kind of leave the top part a little bit lighter, a little bit loose in case I want to give her some hair. I'll give her a mohawk later. So. Alright, but let's put in the facial guidelines so I know where that is. And there's some foreshortening happening here. Her head is tilted back a little bit. Like that. So we got the neck, the trap up there, and then the shoulder muscle. So limbs are always going to be thicker at the top. So like for instance, the shoulder is going to be thicker than your wrist. Top of the thigh is going to be thicker than your ankle. So keep that in mind. As the limb continues, it's going to get thinner and thinner. Alright, and again, I'm looking very carefully at that negative shape, trying to capture that exactly as I see it. Now this goes for if you're drawing from life as well, if you're drawing a person that's holding a pose for you. Look carefully at those negative shapes. They're going to really help you out with proportion immensely. Alright, so we got a thin wrist, forearm starts to get a little bit thicker, a little muscle there. We drop down for the elbow, tricep, and then the armpit there like that. Alright, just be super careful that we see a bend to the elbow, okay? This isn't an Adventure Time character, so we're not going to have big old wet noodle arms here, right? We need to make sure that there is a point where it changes direction, okay? It's not just a big curve. we got our chest coming this way. That's got to turn into rib cage by the bottom of the third head there. And we got the ribs, turns into the hip. Still kind of go in the same direction. All right, we'll stop right there at 4.5. All right, let's go to the other side. So we said this shoulder was a little bit higher. And I want to go ahead and kind of start to do the outside shape here first. The shoulder muscle, a little bit of the tricep, and into the elbow. All right, now go to this side, and this again is where I'm looking at that negative shape. So we've got bicep. Comes here, gets a little bit smaller right before the bend here. Forearms overlapping a little bit. This part puffs out a tiny bit. And the wrist, it gets a lot smaller. And keeping a close eye on that negative shape. So I'm trying to spend as much time looking at what I'm drawing as I am my drawing itself. Okay, not too bad. All right. Now we can kind of put in the finger details a little bit more. And same thing, I'm looking at the negative space between the fingers. That's our forefinger. You can kind of simplify this a little bit, it doesn't have to be perfect. And I kind of join these two together a little bit. That's the bottom of the wrist. And I think I made that part a little bit too skinny, so we'll just join that. Okay, so before I move on to the legs, I'm going to see if there's anything else that needs to get fixed. I'm not liking this wrist, so I'm going to change that up a little bit, bring it down a little. And if you made any mistakes, just go back and try to find it and correct it. You know, you're always going to have a few here and there. It's not about whether you make mistakes, it's just whether or not you decide to do something about it. Okay. All right, now we're going to go into the hips. So we've got this one flaring out here, and then this leg over here. So let's go ahead and start with this right leg here, the one that's a little more vertical. All right, so again, we said that the limbs are always going to be thicker at the top, and they kind of get thinner as they go down. So I'm going to show this thigh coming down here, and then we got the kneecap, and the kneecap kind of pops in just a little bit. All right, and then this thigh comes in here to the back of the knee, and it's going to kind of curve into the calf at that point then. All right, so we got the shin over here, and then the calf back here, and then it's going to get super thin around the ankle. All right, so keep that for now. All right, now on this leg, this thigh, coming out right here, and then the kneecap. And then the back of this thigh kind of comes from behind this one, okay? So we've got, probably right about here. That's where it starts. And then same thing, we've got the calf here. And then the front of the shin. Just gotta get skinnier by the time you get to the ankle. Alright, then we got a heel, and then from the looks of it, it looks like she just got heels on, but if you want to make them flat feet, it's pretty easy to do too. Okay, yeah, and then at that point, I feel like that's a pretty good template for whatever I want to put on. So for costume design, fashion design, what have you, yeah, I could use this over and over again as a template for different types of outfits. Yeah, that's about it. So, thanks for joining us.